I'm Phil Christensen. I'm a professor here at Arizona State University. I'm a geologist by training, but I spent much of my career building instruments, cameras, and other types of instruments that we've sent to places like Mars or asteroids. Through most of my career, I've been putting things on NASA spacecraft, and we've sent them out into the solar system. But I've always wanted to find opportunities to do similar types of science, make similar types of measurements here on Earth. From Earth orbit, it's hard to look down and see the planet, but from a space plane like Aurora, it seemed like the perfect opportunity for us to try something new. This particular project was really challenging because we had to make it smaller, we had to make it lighter, we had to make it quicker, and we had to make it a lot cheaper, but then do it in a way that was much more nimble and rapid and inexpensive that we could put on a space plane and use here on the Earth.
Once I figured out what the Aurora Spaceplane was, it was actually really exciting. So we're used to doing kind of, I don't want to say copy and paste instruments, but similar instruments for rockets. So to have a space plane where the environments are different, the interfaces are different, it presented some new challenges that were exciting for us. To compare, an Aurora mission versus, say, our typical NASA mission, if we run into an issue integrating on a NASA mission, it's basically all work stops. You have to have meetings, you have to rewrite documentation. Whereas with Aurora, we are able to adapt on the fly for more than a few reasons, actually. One, obviously the instrument going up on a plane that's returning. So if we have an issue, we're able to, unfuel the aircraft, make whatever changes we have to, fix whatever we have to, refuel the aircraft, and potentially fly the same day. Whereas, with a regular spaceflight mission, at least for small missions and instruments of our size, once that thing's up in the air, it is what it is.
When we showed up in New Zealand with our camera, it fit perfectly. The integration was remarkably straightforward. Electrically, mechanically, thermally, everything just worked really well. The cameras we build work in the infrared. Your eyes see at visible light, but we can build cameras that see infrared light. They're essentially night vision goggles. So in order for us to view the surface of the Earth, the pilot actually had to fly the plane upside down. And so that was probably the biggest challenge, trying to fly the plane safely and successfully, orient it upside down so that we were looking down at the Earth, and then at the same time fly over parts of the land. So we got a fair number of images of the ocean. We got a few images of the Earth, infrared images of the Earth, which were really nice. We could tell what we were looking at. We learned some interesting things. But some of the best images we got were actually of the clouds. And so as the vehicle was maneuvering and rolling, we scanned, you could see the curvature of the Earth, and then you could see these clouds, these beautiful clouds that are, in the image. One thing that's very disconcerting is clouds are cold. And so we're used to seeing, clouds as white puffy things, but in the infrared, cold is dark. And so the clouds are actually these bands of dark material across the image. So it took us a while to figure out exactly what we were looking at, but you can see beautiful temperature structure in the clouds. So that was, again, a key to maybe some future observations where we can focus on the clouds rather than, trying to look at the Earth.
So we actually started the image collection before the takeoff and didn't turn it off until after we had landed. So the camera was essentially recording and collecting data during the entire flight. So on the launch or takeoff, if you will, we were a little concerned about solar intrusion down the bore of our camera because it essentially focuses all that energy on the sensor head and could overheat it. And while we did capture images of the sun and there was solar intrusion down the bore, it did not cause any issues with the instrument. And on the way out, we caught beautiful images of clouds, the limb of the Earth, some atmospheric data, as well as a bunch of space, ocean, and geography related shoreline as well. So it was really great data ultimately. During development, we were so focused on the possibility of supersonic speed that we didn't take into consideration the roll rate where the aircraft would flip upside down to point us towards Earth. Well, the roll rate was so quick that we did have some image smear. However, we still were able to obtain excellent images once we finished the roll and pointed down at Earth, as well as some of the clouds and their images.
For us, I think this project really opened the opportunity to do things quickly and to try things and to engage students. As an example, the project on its way to Europa. We started on that project in 2015. It launched like a year ago, and it gets to Europa in 2030. So 15 years from, hey, I've got this idea, to when you actually get data. So projects like Aurora, it's weeks or months between when a student or scientist has an idea to when you get that first data. And that's just, it changes the game on how you do that kind of science.
The ability for Aurora to make a quick turn flight, one after the other, 2 to 3 times a day is extremely exciting, actually. Because as soon as we had landed and I looked at the data, I instantly thought, oh, what if we did this? Or what if we did that? Where we can point it towards different targets of opportunity, where you can really adapt and adjust your ConOps or concept of operations on the fly. So, one day you can get great images of clouds, another day you might be able to get great images of a shoreline. It really gives a lot of flexibility in what you could do with your whatever instrument you're flying ultimately.
One of the fun things about space exploration is you get to send things to places like Mars or the Moon. But on the flip side, it's extraordinarily expensive, and you only get to do it occasionally. So from the start of a project that's going to go to Mars, from the start to when we actually get data from Mars might be a decade. All the testing and the building, and you have to get there. And so we conceived of this project with Dawn Aerospace less than a year ago. We spent a few months building this infrared camera. We didn't have to build it to the same exact specifications that you would have to do for NASA. And then we were able to fly it in a matter of days. So from start of the project to data was like 4 months, not 10 years.
After this mission with Dawn, I had watched lots of videos, all of their, YouTube content essentially, and it got you really excited. But there's nothing like being on the runway and watching the space plane take off like a missile and go vertical, in the flash of a second. So it was extremely exciting, and it really got me excited for the potential to maybe fly on the next generation aircraft as well, or even on Aurora again, because it was such a cool mission. And the people there were really just great to work with across the board.
I think the future is incredibly bright for studying the Earth from space, from high altitude, studying the ocean, studying the planet, studying the plants, studying the rocks. We live on a very big and very complicated planet, and we're just beginning to understand how weather works and how climates works and how ecosystems work and how the oceans interact with the atmosphere, and it interacts with the climate and then interacts with the ecosystems. So I think the more we can learn from remote sensing observations taken from space or from airplanes flying above the Earth, we have a tremendous amount left to learn. And I think there's some really exciting, interesting questions we can address, and really serious problems that we can try to understand about how our Earth is changing, how we can fix it, how we can improve it, how we can help the ecosystems here survive. I think the opportunities are limitless in terms of the things that one can do to understand our Earth.